Welcome back. Today I'm going to be giving you my offensive line rankings for the 2025 NFL Draft. If you do enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing as it would be greatly appreciated. And we'll start off at number 10 with what is most likely a pure guard prospect in Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. The value of a guard prospect is obviously lower than a tackle, but I do think this will be a good starter in the NFL. He's got a good anchor, gets in low and below the pads of defensive linemen, and holds up really well. Same goes for my number 9, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. My issue here is that if I'm going to draft a prospect in the first 2 rounds, there's a ton of guards who can pass protect at a good enough level to hold up in the NFL. The ones who can really make a difference are the ones who dominate in the run game, and I just didn't see the vertical movement skills in either of these guys. My number 8 is Oussie Trapilo out of Boston College. His 6'8" frame immediately excites me because, spoiler alert, the lack of length in this tackle class is very apparent. Unfortunately though, Trapilo measured in with 33-inch arms, which is short for a tackle, so all his frame really means is that he'll struggle to get underneath defensive linemen. He also has quite a skinny frame, and his lack of competition makes it hard to know whether he has the anchor to hold up against NFL defenders, but I thought he had quick feet and was really good in hand-to-hand combat, so there could be something to work with if he can fill his frame out a bit more. At number 7, I have Josh Connelly Jr. out of Oregon, and there's a lot to like about Josh Connelly. He's got 33.5-inch arms, which isn't as long as you would want, but he has really quick feet to get across to the defensive lineman. He has good technique and consistent timing. The issue is that he doesn't have the physical strength to overcome the lack of leverage that he'll have against NFL competition, and it's as simple as that. I can go on and on about all the positives, and I think he might be one of the better rookie tackles because he's fairly pro-ready, but I don't think he has the anchor, and he also doesn't display the real punch in his hands that comes from the power in his arms that could offset some limitations with length, so his ceiling is capped in my opinion. My number 6 is Armond Meu out of Missouri, who has really climbed up draft boards since an impressive combine. His arms are the same length as Connelly at 33.5 inches. He moves really well, but at 332 pounds, I was expecting him to be a lot more physically dominant than he is. His hand placement is often an issue, and even his footwork looks messy on some reps. So I think he needs some work, and honestly, even if he pulls it all together, I don't know if the upside is there as a tackle considering the short arms and the underwhelming anchor. This said, I do think he could be a solid guard. But if it is a guard you're looking for, don't pass on my number 5, Gray Zable out of North Dakota State. Zable played left tackle in college, but having only just made the 32-inch mark in arm length, he is surely going to kick inside for the NFL. I don't love that he's 6'6" on the interior. I would prefer these guys to be around 6'3", where they can really get under the pads of defensive linemen. But other than that, Zable is a sure thing. Don't let the low-level competition scare you. He was great in the one-on-one Senior Bowl reps against better competition, and I saw everything I need to see on film. He's agile, can really move defenders out the way and create clear openings in the run game. I think he has a really solid anchor and is technically sound in pass pro. On top of all this, his intelligence gives him the upside to play center. He's played tackle, so you could argue that the versatility to play every position is there. In complete contrast to Gray Zable, at number 4 I have Arante Ursery out of Minnesota. I say in contrast because this is a tackle. If he doesn't work at tackle, I think he loses his value because the run game is not going to be his thing. He just doesn't have that vertical mobility. And I think there is some risk here because his hand placement is often a bit messy. He has 33 and 1/8" arms, which, for context, that is the exact same length as Talise Buaga from last year's class, who has shown some promise at tackle, so it's doable. You just have to have really quick feet, powerful arms, and a good anchor. Ursery checks all of those boxes. Do bear in mind that some of these clips are against number 11 in white, which is Abdul Carter. If Ursery can clean up his technique, you might have a really solid left tackle. If he doesn't, you have a below average guard, which is why I couldn't have him as a first round evaluation. My first day 1 evaluation is number 3, Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. I have two concerns with Banks. He has 33.5-inch arms and doesn't seem to be the most balanced. He plays with an attitude and is powerful, but the lack of stability in his movement left me unconvinced of his potential in the run game. In terms of pass protection, every so often he goes wide with his hand placement, but I like how he competes for leverage in hand-to-hand combat. He has good enough lateral quickness, but the thing I liked most about him is that he has a really solid anchor. I think this gives Banks a fairly reliable floor, and if he can clean a couple of things up, it also gives him the upside of a good starting left tackle. At number 2, I have Will Campbell out of LSU. It's no exaggeration to say that arm length is a concern for every major tackle prospect in this class, but none more so than Will Campbell. Campbell measured in at the combine with 32 5/8-inch arms, although he actually measured in with 33-inch arms at his pro day. This was the most difficult evaluation for me, and it wasn't even close. You'll hear a lot of analysts avoid this conversation by just saying whether he's a guard or a tackle, he's going to be amazing. And I take issue with this because, as I've touched on in this video already, these are two different positions with different skill sets. I don't doubt for a moment that Campbell will be a solid guard in the NFL, but he hasn't shown the vertical bulldozing power of the sort of dynamic guard that I would be looking to draft in the first round. I actually see Will Campbell as a tackle. That's not the conclusion I was expecting to come to, but this is where if you're always trying to analyse prospects like it's an equation, you will come unstuck with a rarity like Campbell. Because yes, it's rare to succeed at tackle in the NFL with 33 or less inch arms, but there's also very few of these short arm examples who also have elite footwork, technique and balance. Campbell checks all these boxes. If you are looking for evidence that it can work, Braden Smith for the Colts and Luke Goedeke for the Bucks are both really solid tackles and both have just 32 1/4-inch arms. Campbell has longer arms than that, and if his 33-inch pro day measurement is accurate, he actually is going to be in the same ballpark as Rashawn Slater and Tristan Wirfs. Like I say, Campbell has all the ability to overcome his arm length with the quality of his technique, his agility, and I was pleasantly surprised by the anchor. But at number 1, I have Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Maybe this is my kryptonite as an evaluator because this is the third video in a row where my number 1 prospect in the position is an injury concern, but I'm sticking to my guns. Simmons suffered a torn patella tendon in week 7. This is a knee injury that does typically take longer to recover from than the ACL. However, he has taken the time to properly recover, and all reports suggest that he is on track for a strong recovery and has a real chance to be ready for week 1 of the NFL season. The injury has distracted people from the fact that Josh Simmons is the best tackle prospect in this class. There's one slight flaw in his profile barring the injury, and in case you haven't already guessed it, it's arm length. 33-inch arms is not that much longer than Will Campbell, but really quick feet, a good anchor, and great balance. Simmons displays really consistent footwork and hand placement, even more so than Will Campbell, and just ticks that arm length box slightly more convincingly than Campbell as well. As long as he does recover, Simmons is going to be a really good starting tackle in the NFL. In summary, I do think this offensive line class is a bit overrated, at least in terms of the high end, because I only have 3 first rounders, and even those 3 first rounders all have question marks. If you do enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing as it greatly supports the channel, and I'll see you soon with the final position group to rank in this draft class, the running backs.